Folks, hopefully you had a relaxing Labor Day, but while you were relaxing, hopefully, Irma was working and has continued to intensify. Doesn't take a meteorologist to say that something this symmetrical must be intensifying. It's now a Category 4. Remember that terminology? Maybe remember this. The official terminology for a Cat 4, catastrophic. Yes, as strong as Matthew was, as strong as the hurricane that just pounded the Lone Star State and Louisiana, that being Harvey. Here's the projected track and the eye and eye wall, the worst the hurricane has to offer, as nearly a Category 5 overnight tonight and then during the day tomorrow, going over the northern Leeward Islands. And now hurricane warnings have been extended westward through the Virgin Islands, and also now the hurricane warnings include Puerto Rico. Soon watches will probably be issued for Hispaniola, portion of the southeast Bahamas, and then eventually it's Cuba, and then in some form or fashion right about here, although you don't see it in the cone, this hurricane is expected to pivot and then turn to the north. South Florida will be within its sights first, and then a hurricane, not as powerful, but still an intense hurricane, will turn to the north. Lots of ifs in the forecast. This is one of the reasons why the cone only goes out 5 days. There's less science beyond 5 days. With that said, I'm going to give about a 40% chance that this hurricane, again, pivoting in some form or fashion over or near Cuba and the Keys in South Florida, heads to the north, pounds South Florida that with all this hurricane has, and then heads to the north and northeast. The eye wall of what's left of it, possibly missing us, but still us being impacted. A 30% chance, so almost as great of a chance that this hurricane continues a little bit longer to the west, then comes back. Then instead of the major threat being the Keys, Miami, and Palm Beach, the worst weather would be places like Fort Myers, Naples, and Tampa. It only adds up to 70. What gives? This is still a week away, folks. There's a 30% chance of variables. We just don't know what's going to happen. But we have a good idea of what that means for our forecast. I'll break it down for you day by day. In fact, Anthony has plenty to talk about as far as the news. If you want to hear more inside baseball, we're going to go to Facebook Live right now. Anthony?
All right, that's right. You can watch Tim right now on Facebook Live on First Coast. Well, a lot of people at First Coast are not wasting any time preparing for Hurricane Irma. This is the site of any story around.
All right, folks, so thanks for joining us. I will be talking about more about Irma on the air, but what I was not able to get to right away, one of the reasons why I went for that 40% is because the European model has so far handled Irma best. The European model handled Joaquin, remember the El Faro tragedy, handled best Matthew last year, handled best Harvey that we just saw in Texas just a little more than a week ago. The other 30% reasoning that takes it farther into the Gulf of Mexico, then turns it toward the east-northeast and maybe farther up the eastern seaboard or maybe even farther out to sea, is because of the front. The front will impact all of us. Just when the hurricane feels that front is one of the tough things to forecast. Now, what we're going to talk about more in a bit, but I'll share now, and that is that for whatever Irma has to offer us here in Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia, I think the worst of our weather will be late Sunday through Monday and then into early Tuesday.
All right, so we have some questions from some viewers. Let's go ahead and ask those.
Just so viewers know, I'm going to take this out of my ear so I can hear. This is our IFB, so I can hear news and producers, but with that in my ear, I can't hear you, so go ahead.
Okay. Willie says that he's new to Florida. Should he go to shelter at all?
Normally, it depends really where you live. Normally, we go to shelters if we're concerned about storm surge. Now, if this does something that I'm not forecasting, at some point maybe we'll have evacuations for storm surge. I think the greater concern, at least at this point, is going to be for possibly trees coming down and power outages. So that depends more on the kind of structure you're in. If you're in a structure that you think can't handle winds of 60 or 70 miles per hour, then maybe you should go to a shelter. So maybe I should get to that. Right now, what I'm forecasting here is nothing like what South Florida is going to get. If this does impact South Florida as a Category 3 hurricane, we expect them to have winds easily of over 120 miles per hour. At least for us, I'm thinking more like a severe thunderstorm event, only it lasts about 12 hours, maybe 60 mile per hour winds. Now that's enough to bring down shingles, cause power outages, but not massive damage. So if you're in a really old trailer Under those conditions, maybe. Otherwise, you're going to be okay. But again, keep a close watch on the forecast. If it's more severe, then that's something you might want to consider.
Some people are asking, what should they expect in Georgia?
Okay, so the forecast right now, because there's so many ifs, what I'm saying for Northeast Florida is very similar to Southeastern Georgia, and that is that I think we should all prepare for at least the possibility of winds occasionally at 60 miles per hour over a 12-hour period. And literally, because I could be just as convinced this track is going to come up the west coast of Florida and then right up I-75 as it is it's going to go up I-95. All of us pretty similar odds as far as getting those winds. Now I do want to add that 6 days out, if in fact it goes into the Gulf and comes back to the northeast, heads offshore at the Cape and races off to the northeast, most of us won't have 60-mile-per-hour winds. But that's if it comes up to spine.
Some people are wanting to know if they should be worried about evacuating, and if not right now, when should they look out for such a notice?
Great question. I think at this point, under the current forecast, most of us will not be asked to evacuate under the current forecast, but it's going to be close. I think if evacuations are recommended, I think that probably would not occur until late Thursday at the earliest, probably not until Friday. So we're going to have a relatively long period of time, the next 3 days, to see how the forecast is panning out. So that I think, let's say evacuations are ordered by Friday. I think those of you who will need to evacuate, you will have a very clear idea by Thursday.
Okay. And around Thursday, is that when we should get an idea of what track Irma is going to take?
I think even more significant than the track by Thursday, I think we'll really be able to nail down here who's going to get the worst of the weather and what the worst of that weather will be.
What about the panhandle of Florida? I know a couple people have asked that on our last Facebook Live in here.
I would say as far as the panhandle, even though all 67 counties are under a state of emergency by the governor, I would say that the panhandle has the greatest likelihood of having weather in which there won't be power outages. In fact, if you're a person to where, I'm thinking kind of like my parents, if you're someone who isn't working, have the independence to go, have the wherewithal to go, have some friends to visit, or just want to go to some hotels and don't even want to deal with the stress of traffic or power outages, I would, at least at this point, think Tallahassee westward, Saturday through, in other words, go Saturday to beat the traffic through Tuesday, and that might be a good way to go. I have to go back on TV, but folks, we're going to be doing this right on through I guess next week, as long as Irma is still a threat. So thanks, everyone.